Hello everyone, welcome to GB Reddy Automation World. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go and subscribe to it. Right. Daily we are posting latest videos on the channel. Right, you will get a lot of knowledge on core Java, Selenium, right, A/B testing, Cucumber, mobile, right, and interview questions. These are all will be posting on the channel. Right, please go and watch it. Today's one more interesting topic I came up with. Right, top 10 real world Selenium challenges. Right, we will do Selenium, right? Every day we will do automation with the Selenium, but we will get some issues with the challenges or issues, right? We will get everything. What are the most frequently we are getting different right issues and how to resolve those? How to resolve those issues? Right, we'll see. Right, one by one. How to handle dynamic XPath like a pro? Right? How to handle dynamic XPath like a pro? Right. Usually, right, whenever we are automating, sometimes what will happen, we will get a dynamic XPath. So, right, directly we will not get ID, name, class. Right, these things we will not get. Right, nowadays all applications are using UI applications, very right latest technologies. Right, Angular JS, React JS. Right, mostly these things sometimes will not have these ID names. Right, we have to write our own XPath. Right, in those cases, what we have to write a dynamic way. Right, how to deal with those things. Right, sometimes what will happen, ID may be fixed, but sometimes dynamically adding some ID to some dynamic ID to the existing ID. That means some part will be fixed, some part will be right dynamic one. Right, in those cases, how to handle those things. Right, we can have a contains method. Right, we have a contains function. Right, we can use that. Right, how to use it? We can use the contains, and then we have to pass at the rate ID. Right, anything, whether it is ID or class name or any attribute. Right, we can pass any attribute. And then what is the partial ID of it? What is the partial ID of it? Right, we can use the contains function, right, to overcome those dynamic. And also we can use starts with, right, starts with. We can also use starts with. That means it is starting with some fixed content. Right, it will start with a something fixed. Suppose like this. Suppose right, automation 1, 2, 3. But this 1, 2, 3 is changing dynamically. Maybe right. This number is changing sometimes 2, 3, 4, sometimes 4, 5, 6. Right, but starting code will be fixed. Right. In that case, we can go with the starts with. Starts with we can give the at the rate right attribute name. Right, any attribute. Either it is ID name, class name, or anything. Right, and what is the fixed value of it? Right, we can use the starts with also. Right, avoid absolute XPath. Right, 100% we should not use very rare scenario 0.1%. Right, we should not use the absolute XPath. Right, what will happen? What is absolute XPath? It will start from the root node. Right, it will start from the HTML body div like right. It will come from starting root node onwards. What will happen if middle something is added, something is deleted, any tag? Right. Obviously, what will happen? Our XPath will broken. Right. Every time we have to update it. So always it's better to go for relative XPath only. Relative XPath means slash slash. We'll start with the slash slash and then give the tag name. And then in the square brackets, we will use the attribute key and value. Right. Sometimes we have to combine with a multiple attributes. Right. We can also right fix this dynamic thing, dynamic XPath. Right. We can go with the multiple attribute. Sometimes what will happen if we use only one attribute, maybe there is a chance of retrieving multiple tags. So we can use multiple attributes in that case so that we can get uniquely. And then we can also use the hierarchy and the text together. Right, we can use the hierarchy means what? By using the parent tag, we can sometimes directly we cannot identify the whatever the tag we required. In those cases, what we can do? We can use the siblings concept, right? Either following sibling or parent, right? Child, right? Different types of siblings we have. We can use those access, right? Accesses, right? Parent, mostly we will use parent, child, following sibling, preceding sibling, right? Mostly these things we will use. And indexing, right? Sometimes if you write multiple try in a different ways, but still we will get a multiple tags. Right. In those cases, what we can do, we can go for a indexing. Right. We can use the index either 1, 2, 3. Right. Sometimes if we try multiple ways also, we will get to multiple elements with the same locator. So then in that case, we'll go for a indexing concept. Use only when there are no unique identifiers available. Right. Capture dynamic parts with the variables. Right. Sometimes what will happen, we want to pass, write a dynamic XPath, we can pass. Suppose you have a 10 check boxes or 10 radio buttons, 10 links, right? Links are there. We cannot write for each and every link, each and every radio button or check boxes. We will not write locators and right click on. We will write a dynamic method, right? We will use some method, we'll create a dynamic XPath. We will pass, suppose I want to click on a radio button cricket. We will pass the cricket and dynamically we will prepare the XPath or CSS, anything. Locator we will prepare a dynamically. Right, we have to choose. That is whenever you are developing a framework, we have to create a reusable methods to form a dynamic locators. Right, if you want to validate, always it's better before using, it should be used in the browser. Right, whether it is correctly identifying or not. Correctly identifying or not. Right, this is the first challenge. Right, expert. That is the daily common right challenge we will get in the modern applications. Then one more is synchronization issues. Right, this is also a very commonly we will get a synchronization issues. What is synchronization issues? Right, actually, how we will get synchronization issues? Right, suppose you are trying to enter text on the element or click on the element before loading the page. Right, before loading the page, you are trying to do anything on it. What will happen? You will get no such element exception or element not interactable exception. Right, element not clickable exception. Right, different types of exceptions we will get. Right, to avoid those things, we must use the synchronization techniques. Right, synchronization techniques. How to use? We can use either implicit wait or explicit wait or fluent wait. Right, avoid implicit wait. Use the explicit and fluent weights. Right, because implicit weight will apply on the all the elements. Tomorrow, if you modify for one element is taking more time. Suppose if you modify fluent weight, implicit weight, what will happen? It is a global weight, so it will affect all the remaining elements also. Right, whenever failure is there, it will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of time. Suppose 10 failures are there. Right, you have executed 20 test cases, 10 are failing. Because of implicit wait, what will happen? Every failure it will take, suppose you have given implicit error is there 2 minutes. Right, whenever failure occur, what will happen? It will wait for 22 minutes, right, 120 seconds, then throw the exception. Right, wait time will increase whenever failures are there if you use the implicit wait. But explicit wait, what? We can customize whatever time we want. Right, for one element, we can wait for 5 seconds. For one element, 10 seconds. Suppose sometime it is taking 1 minute and 60 seconds. Right, based on the right, we know how much time we can wait it max. Right, we can decide. So that right, whenever failures are there, it will decrease the execution time. Right, to handle this synchronization technique, mostly we'll go for right WebDriver wait, fluent wait, because One is to decrease the wait time when our failures are more. And then one more is we have different condition to wait for the element. Right. Element to be visible, element to be clickable, error is present. Right. Windows are present. Different right functions we have in the expected condition. Based on that condition, we can wait for it. Right. That is also one more reason why we will go for a explicit and fluent waits. We avoid thread.sleep. 100% we will not use thread.sleep because it is a hard wait, right? If we use the hard wait, sometimes maybe today it may work. 10 seconds page is loaded, you kept 10 seconds. Tomorrow it is getting 15 seconds, right? It will fail. Suppose if it take 5 seconds only, right? We are unnecessarily waiting for 10 seconds, right? If the page is loaded fastly or page is loaded slowly, both have disadvantages. So 100% we will avoid thread.sleep. Prefer explicit waits over implicit and static waits. Do not store web element if page might refresh or re-render. Combine with the page load strategies or Ajax wait conditions. Right, these are the best practices we have to use. And what is the third challenge frequently we will get? Stale element. Right, this is also a commonly we will get. Right. Stale element reference exception is what? Right, you have identified one element in the page. After that, you clicked on it, some other element, you clicked on it. One element I have identified. I have clicked on some other element. Because of that click, page is refreshed. Because of that click, page got refreshed. That means previously whatever elements we have identified, those got stale. Right, those are refreshed again. Page is refreshed again. That means whatever previously identified things become stale if you do any action on it. Right, previously before click you have identified element. If you do any operation or right is displayed, enter text, click, it will get immediately stale element because that is no longer attached to the DOM. That is no longer attached to the DOM. We will obviously get a stale element reference exception. What is the how to fix it? One way is to relocate it. One way is to relocate. Whenever exception is got a stale element in the catch block, we have to relocate it. Or we can write a method to retry for it. We can write a method, reusable method. Right, whenever stale element is exception occurred, we can retry it again. Or use explicit wait to ensure element is stable. Right. We can use explicit wait also. Avoid storing web elements as a global variables if the DOM might change. Right. If your frequently your DOM is changing, you avoid storing it. Right, as a global variables. Dynamically, we have to get it every time. Driver dot find element. Right, we have to write the driver dot find element, and then we have to find the element. Don't avoid public variables. That is global variables. Always access the web element only when needed, especially after any page update or navigation. Right. Then one more challenge is pop-ups and alerts. These are all not rarely we will get a some rarely, right? Not frequently, very rarely. Right, when we get a sudden pop-ups or sudden alerts, right? How to handle those things. All right, we know that. Right, by using the alert class. Right. If it is a browser pop-ups, we can handle it by using right. By we can use alert class. By creating how to create the object of alert class driver dot switch to alert. And then we can also use here wait. Right. Immediately don't switch to the alert. Sometimes what will happen, alert will take some time, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Right. If we try to switch it, what we will get no such alert exception. So just use the explicit wait until alert is present, right, before doing any action on it, before switching to the alert. Right. So that we will not get any exception. Right. On alert, we can do either accept, dismiss, send keys. We can do accept, dismiss, send keys. Right. If it is a not a browser pop-ups, what we will do? Suppose if it is a file upload. Right. We can use the send key. Suppose if it is a input tag, that file upload button, whatever tag is there, that is a input tag. We can use the send keys directly and then pass the file path. It will work. Right. Suppose basic auth. Sometimes we will get a basic auth pop-ups. Right. In the URL, we can attach username and password. These are all very rare scenarios. Right. Suppose if you are unable to handle native, sometimes what will happen? Whenever we will trying to upload a file, it is not accepting send keys. That means that is not an input tag. Then we have to go with alternatively auto IT robot class SQL. Right, we can go with the robot class. First we'll try with robot class. If not, then auto IT. Right, then SQL. All right, mostly robot class and auto IT we can handle it. Right, always use explicit wait before switching to alert. Right, I already told you. And use exception handling to handle where alert may or may not appear. Sometimes what will happen? Some scenarios alert will come, some scenarios alert will not come. Right, we don't know. Right, sometimes it will come, sometimes it will not come. Right, in those cases, what we can do? We can ignore. If it is there, we can click on it. If there is any exception, ignore it. Then try and catch block. In the catch block, what we will do? Simply ignore the exception. We will keep a message as a please ignore the alert is not present. Please ignore this message. That we can handle that. And one more important thing. Next one, frames. Right, frames. Right, this is very tricky. Frequently, we will get right. We are able to identify the element in the browser. Right, if you are while doing the developer console open and you are able to identify the element, but an automation it will not work. In automation, it will not work. Right. In those cases, we will a lot of time. We will spend a lot of time, but we cannot identify. But immediately we have to remember in our mind: is it inside a frame? We have to think that is it in interview also they will ask this question a lot of times. We are able to identify the element in the developer console, the browser, but in automation it's failing. What might be the reasons? Right. One of the reason is that it might be inside a frame. Right. It might be inside a frame. So if the element is inside a frame, directly we cannot interact with that element. Right. Directly we cannot interact with that. We have to switch to it. Then only we can be able to handle it. Right. See, suppose if there is a frame tag like this. Right. Inside a frame tag, we will have a input tag, button tags, or div tags will be there. If we want to do any action on those elements, first we have to switch to frame. We can switch in multiple ways by using the index. Right. If we have only one or two frames, right, we can use the index. Suppose there are 10 to 20 frames. Right. It is very difficult to identify index. Then we will go for name or ID. All right. If it has a frame has ID or name, we can easily switch to it. If it don't have ID or name, then we will identify the web element. By using the web element, we can identify the right. You can use CSS locator or XPath to identify this element. Right. By using that also driver dot switch to dot frame. Either we can pass index, either we can pass the name or attribute or element. If you want to come back to from the you have switched to inside a iframe. If you want to come back to the parent, then switch to default content. Switch to default. Right, we have a one more method, switch to parent frame. That means nested frames. You have a parent frame, inside a frame, parent frame, again you have a child frame. Right, then what we have to do? Right, first we have to switch to parent frame to child frame. Directly we cannot switch from main page to child frame. We cannot switch. First we have to switch to parent frame, then child frame. But if you want to come back directly, we can come back from child frame to main page. Right, default content by using default content. If you want to switch from child parent to child frame to parent frame, then we can use switch to parent frame, child to parent if you want to compare. Right? That is the right. Before switching the frame, just we can also wait for the frame to be available and switch to it. Directly, what it will do, if frame is available, it will switch to it directly. Right? We can also switch it like this also by using explicit. Right? One more thing, drop down handling. Right? Drop downs. Right? Sometimes what will happen in the older applications, it is a select type. Right? Drop downs means what? If you want to select out of multiple values, either single value or multiple values. Sometimes are single select drop downs, multi select drop downs. We will have a single select drop downs, multi select drop downs. That means if you want to sorry, if you want to select one value from out of multiple values, then we will go for a select tag. Select tag will only work when right when it will be work only okay. In select tag, right, when it will work, only DOM has a select. Right, a DOM has, suppose this is the HTML code. If it has a select tag, then only Selenium select class, right? We have a select class. For a select class, we have to provide the drop down element. We have to identify the element, a drop down element, we can pass it. Then only select will work. If the HTML has selected it. Sometimes most of the applications now, what happened? It is a React.js or Angular application. It will not have the select text. Mostly div text. Div text will be there. Right. See, this is the some of the HTML. Then how to handle this type of div text? Right. First we have to click on the drop down, then it will expand it. It will expand. Then only we can able to identify options. Right. Again, we have to click on the option. We have to do two steps. Right. We have to click on the main div tag. It will expand the options. Then again, we have to click on the option. Either we can use normal click. Sometimes normal click may not work. We can go with the JavaScript. We can go with the JavaScript. Right. Use XPath or CSS to interact with the JavaScript dropdowns and always wait for the options to be clickable. Right. Always it's once we click on it, sometimes what will happen? It will call some Ajax call. It will retrieve the options from the back end and it will populate it. It will take some time, 5 to 10 seconds. Just we have to wait for it before clicking on the option. We have to wait for it and then click on it. Right. Don't immediately try to click on it. Immediately it will throw no such element exception. Right. These are the simple tricks we have to follow. Right. So that right our scripts will be stable. It will not fail frequently. Right. It will not fail frequently. Right. One more frequently getting challenging is what is test flakiness? How to make test stable? Right. In interview also we will get this question. These are all we will get in interview. Frequently we will get these questions. Right. How to answer these things? What are the different right ways to answer it and what are the solutions for it? Right. Here we are discussing what is the problem and how to solve. Text flakiness is what? Right. While test case executing, suddenly it will fail. Right. Because of there might be multiple reasons. Right. One is our application is slow. Right. Sometimes what will happen due to our network, you connected to some internet. Due to that, our application is loading very slowly. Right. Someone is connected to right internet that was very working fine, very good. It's working. Our script is working fine. Right. We have to write a script in such a way that it should work in any type of network. Right. It should work. Right. These failures not due to actual bugs. These are all not bugs due to unstable test conditions, due to environment issues, sometimes environment or our network issues, or due to we did not handle properly. Right. We did not handle properly logics. Why the test flakiness is a problem? Right. What is the problem with that? Reduces trust in automation. Right. First thing is everyone lack of confidence on our automation scripts. Why we'll do automation first of all? Right. To make sure application is working perfectly or not. Right. Suppose you are saying every time due to some issues, network issues or application issues, tests are failing. And if we test manually, it is working fine. Then why we require automation? Right. Then we don't require automation. Right. They will do manual only. Right. We are wasting a lot of time. We are executing scripts. Script are failing. Again, we are running manually, and we are saying it's working fine. Right. Then there is a lot of effort. They will right put lot of money on it. Right. Automation resource. Right. They are recruiting resources for automation and to automate it. But if you are saying these conditions, right, we can. There is a some scenarios will be there. Right. 100% right. We cannot. But at least 90 to 95% our script should work. Right. We can make it work. But if we say every time 50%, then they will lose the trust in our automation. Right. Waste our debugging time. Right. Whenever failures are more, again we have to right debug and analysis. Right. We have to do analysis. We are spending time on it. Right. Time also wasted. Right. Slows down CI/CD pipelines. Right. Whenever failures are there more, it will increase the obviously execution time. Right. And leads to false negatives. Right. Sometimes what will happen? Suppose it is failing automation script. So we will execute manually. Maybe you forget to execute some 2 or 3 steps. One step is missed. One step if you miss it also, right? There is a chances of getting issues. Right. That's why false negative scenarios also will get. Right. Then real-time scenarios, if you see a test clicks on a button immediately after page load, but element hasn't rendered it. Right. Fix use explicit wait instead of thread.slip. Right. Most of the time, lot of people they will use thread.slip because it is a very simple one. Right, but we should not use this one because the thread.slip may or may not work. We are not sure 100% confident. We have to use always explicit waits. Right, we can use the right expected conditions, explicit waits only. Right, one more scenario, dynamic web elements and DOM updates. Right, this is the timing and synchronization issues. How the flakiness, the test flakiness, how to fix it. Timing issues. One is the timing issues. We should not use avoid thread.slip, use the explicit waits. Dynamic web elements and DOM updates. Right. A test, right? DOM refreshes again and again because stale element exception. Right. Some applications, right? Frequently we will get stale element exceptions. Right. In those scenarios, what is the right? We cannot say right every time it is getting right. We are unable to handle it. Right. We cannot say. You can write a reusable logic. You can try with 2 to 3 times. Right, first time you have to write a such a method like that. You should try at least 2 to 3 times. Right, maybe first retry stale element. Right, catch the exception, retry it again. Right, sometimes second time it will work, sometime third time it will work. Right, max 3 times. Right, it should mostly it should right? At least 50%, right? Suppose 50% are failing, at least 20% it will fix it if we raise a reusable logics to handle the elements. Right, dependency on external services. Sometimes what will happen, we are depending on other API services. Those are all not yet implemented. Maybe suppose not yet implemented or temporarily unavailable. We can use the mocking or service virtualization. That means dummy service we can create and use that for temporary. Right, environment differences. Sometimes what will happen, test will pass locally but fail in CI/CD. Because maybe headless browser. Mostly we will run in a headless, right? In those cases, what will happen? Run tests in same environment, use containers like Docker or consistent drivers. And browser specific behaviors. Sometimes, right, we will have a browser specific features. Drop-down selection works in Chrome but not in Firefox due to rendering differences. Use cross-browser testing tools like Selenium Grid or Browser Stack, right, to fix, to analyze and fix the issues. We can write it. If suppose if both if it is working differently in different browsers, we can write a condition based. Right. Right. We can use what are the things we have discussed. Use explicit wait, avoid hard-coded delays, relocate the stale elements, use data independent tests, isolate the tests, retry mechanism, mock external dependencies, run tests in parallel safely. Right. These are the different things we can make it to avoid the flakiness of the test cases. Right. Next one, browser compatibility issues. Right. If you are running tests in a multiple browsers, frequently we will get right. Frequently we will get one browser it is working, one browser it will not work. Browser compatibility. Why do these issues occur? Because a different rendering engine. Every browser will have a different types of engines. Each browser interprets HTML, CSS, JavaScript slightly different. Add JavaScript execution speed, unsupported features, right? WebDriver inconsistencies. Right, every browser have different rendering mechanisms. Right, maybe because of that, sometimes we'll get loading issues. Right, some browser it will be load very fast, some browser it will not. JavaScript execution speed. Right, some features will support in only particular browsers only. Right, suppose element is not clickable in Firefox. Right, we can write a for Firefox. Right, we can have if and else conditions. Right, in those cases, for whichever is working for, if JavaScript is working for all the browsers, we can keep this one. Suppose one browser normal click is working, one browser JavaScript means we have to write in a, if browser is Chrome, click on the directly. If browser is Firefox, click on by using JavaScript. Sometimes we require CSS elements not displayed. Right, font, button size or layout appears different in Safari. Right, validate cross-browser CSS support. Use normalized CSS or frameworks like Boost, headless and headed mode. Right, sometimes we will get in while running in the headless mode, we have to set the correct size of the browser. Otherwise, what will happen? It will open in a very small browser, headless mode. Elements will be overlapped, or it will change the view. Right. So we must set the while running in the headless mode, we have to set the size of the browser. Right. That is also a. We can use the cross-browser tools, right? Like browser stack, Selenium Grid, source labs. Design the text with browser agnostic locators. Right. That means it should avoid fragile XPath or style-based selectors. Avoid hard-coded weights. Run tests in multiple browsers in CA. Keep browser drivers are updated. Use consistent resolution and window size. Right. And then one more, how to automate file uploads. Right. If it is a normal input tag, we can directly use the send keys. Right. Driver.find element and then send keys. It will work. No need to click on it, anything. directly. If it is input tag, directly we can send keys path. Sometimes what will happen? We cannot, it will not work normal that directly whatever we are using send keys. In that case, we can use the robot class. We can use the robot class to handle the robot class or auto IT, right? Mostly we can use robot class or auto IT. Right. One more thing. What is parallel execution issues? How to avoid failures? Right. Frequently we will get this. Whenever you are running parallel, some scripts will fail. If you run sequential, it will work. If you run in parallel, it will not work. Reports also will not get consistent. Right. Why we will get because of right, we are running parallel. We have to handle each test case should run in independently. It should not right overlap with the other. Suppose you are running 5 threads, 5 Selenium test cases at a time. Right, we will create usually driver, right? 5 drivers. It should not overlap with one driver with another. How to make sure that? Right, it should be shared WebDriver. Problem is tests run on same WebDriver. If you run on same WebDriver, we will definitely get issues. We have to make sure that each test case should run on different instance. That means we have to use the thread local. We have to create the WebDriver by using thread local instance. So that what will happen? Suppose I am running 5 test cases. Each test case will have separate driver instance and shared test data and state. Right. We should not use multiple test data, modify the same test data, causing unexpected. We have to use the independent test data. Each thread, each test case should have independent. Improper synchronization. Right. Tests interact with the shared resources without locks. You avoid shared static variables. Use synchronization. Don't use the static variables. If you want to use the static variables, use synchronization. Right. Browser session overlaps. Right. One test closes the browser while running another. Right. So to make sure setup and take down are thread safe. Right. Test framework not configured for parallel. Right. We have to use if you want to run it in parallel, we have to use either TestNG, Demystified or Cucumber. Right. If you are using TestNG, we can keep it as a parallel threads, how many counts we want to use it. And we have to use the thread local concept, right? Driver while creating the driver. Right. These are the different problems we will face. These are the challenges, right? Every day when we are doing automation, these are the changes and right challenges, how to handle it, right? I think I have explained clearly. If you like my way of teaching and content, whatever I have presented, please subscribe to the channel, enable notification. Please like and comment on the video. Please share to your friends. Thanks for watching.